Okay, so we're going to be doing encapsulated nails. I'm going to show you a couple techniques using gel and acrylic. I'm already prepped my hands, so I'm going to go ahead with my nail prep. Dehydrate the nails. I'm going to go with my primer. Make sure we prime the whole nail. Staying away from the cuticle area. Okay, so I'm going to start by using a base. I'm going to be using Lustrous Pink by Valentino and Clear from Youngdale's. So for this one, I've decided to encapsulate some confetti pieces, some little small circles, and I have some gold foil. As a base color, I'm going to use the pink. So I'm going to go ahead and lay a thin layer of that down. Just a very thin layer. Remember, anytime you're encapsulating, we want to make sure we have a nice thin coat. This is just the background color, so we don't need it to be thick at all. This one. Very thin. Okay, so these are capped. As we see, it's super thin. You can even still see the tip. That's how thin you want it. Put that to the side. What I'm going to do now is grab my clear. And I'm going to grab the pieces that I'm going to encapsulate. And what I like to do is I use this little tray, but I actually find that it's easier to kind of sometimes use it right on the paper towel. So I'm just going to randomly place, I'm going to place a thin layer of clear. Super thin. And while it's still nice and wet, I'm going to take some pieces. Now when we're placing pieces, we want to make sure everything lays flat. If it's not laying flat, like this one, most likely it's going to come up when you're filing, so you don't want to use it. If you can't get it to stay still with your brush, then scrap it. This is why sometimes I like to work from the paper towel. I'm going to dump these onto the paper towel so I can move a little quicker. And then I can selectively place the pieces that I want. Just making sure everything stays super flat. You see how these curl up? These are curling upwards. So I'm going to flip it to make sure that the curl is down. Or you can use a different piece if you want. But when it's on my paper towel, I can kind of see it a little bit better. One more right here. gonna have it cascading downwards. Okay. I'll repeat the same thing on the next nail. A little thin coat of clear. Some people pick up with the clear, but I feel like that ends up giving it bulk. If you are slower, you can pick up and then pick it up with the clear. If you can find yourself working faster, then you can just place it on. You have the opportunity to just place it while it's still wet. I'm just going to repeat the same thing on this nail. Okay. So again, I'm going to move these onto I'll just move everything onto the floor. I have the tray. I like to work like this. I can pick them up. So again, I'm going to just make sure to see how these are flat, because now it's set in that acrylic. So I'm going to put a little bit of acrylic on the rest of it, the clear. And I'll just start randomly placing these circles. I'll grab a bunch of them. What I'm trying to do is just kind of create any type of look. Doesn't really matter. We're just going to encapsulate this. I'm going to have it cascading downwards. I'm using the circles to pinpoint where I have the confetti, keeping in mind where the nail is and where I'm going to file. We don't want to do too much on the side in case you have to reshape. You don't want to have too much going on the side walls. And then I'm going to take a little bit of foil. Foil will break up very easily if you pick it up with your brush. And I'm just going to place foil randomly. Foil, you don't really need to add more acrylic because it will kind of disappear and you'll be able to kind of move it. Break it up on the paper towel and break it with the tip of my brush. Foil breaks up very easily, so I'm not too worried about that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same thing with the next nail. So again, I'm going to put a little bit of that clear. Super wet bead. I'm not building anything. I just basically want it wet. I'm going to repeat the same thing with the circles. And again, with a piece of foil, just kind of highlighting where I have the design at. You can see I'm just kind of picking it up from the paper towel. As I touch it, it breaks off. Play with it too much, it will disappear. So I'm going to be careful working with this. Okay. And that's good enough for me. These two nails. I'm going to move this away. What I'm going to do is now encapsulate this in clear. So with a nice bead of clear, I'm gonna just really start by the cuticle with a nice wet bead. Make sure everything is being covered. can always file. You want to make sure everything is fully covered. I even like to do a little bit of the edge and brush back just to make sure it's fully sealed in. And always look at your nail from all angles, make sure nothing's poking out. To go a little bit more heavy on the side just because I know I'm going to file more on the side. Doesn't matter how fat or thick it looks, you can always file that off. I'm going to cap that, and now I'm going to cap this one. Same process. Start by the cuticle and just work it down. Making sure I cap everything. If something is poking out, you can always pull it out at this point if you see it's high. If it's a piece, if you're working with the confetti pieces and you file a little bit off, it's no big deal. It won't ruin the design. In this scenario, there's no wrong or right to the design. So if something gets filed away, it's no big deal. Like I see I have a little high piece of foil here, so I'm just going to push it down before that acrylic sets. And then add another bead right on top just to make sure it seals. Okay, and while those set up, we'll move on to the gel. Okay, so for these two nails, I'm going to use gel. So I'm going to mainly be using base. I'm going to use a little bit of confetti that I have here and some crushed up shells. I'm also going to be using some gel paint, my young nails, and some Kiara Sky glitter. So the cool thing with gel is that when you are using it, you can layer up. So I'm going to create all these different layers using these pieces. So I'm going to start by putting a little base gel, as always, first step in gel, then coat of base. And instead of building the nail up with sculptor, I'm going to build it up with base. I actually learned this technique from Young Nails. If you look at their YouTube, they have a lot of helpful videos with working with gel and art. Alright, so now that that is set, I'm going to go ahead and cure this first layer of gel for 60 seconds. Okay, once that first layer is cured, I'm going to go back in. And I'm just going to paint another thin layer of gel. On both these nails. While it's still wet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my smallest piece and work that way. So my smallest piece is obviously the glitter. I'm going to take a little bit of this glitter and dump some out here. What I'm going to do is go on with the makeup brush, pick some up, and just place it on. As you place it on, the brush becomes a little sticky. So let's still create that cascading look. This one, it go the opposite way, come down and around. Okay, and when you feel that it's good, I'm going to go ahead and cure this for about 30 seconds, 30 to 45 seconds. I'm going to cure this layer. Okay, once that's done curing, I'm gonna go ahead and do my second layer. So I'm gonna go ahead with another layer of base. And you can see at this point, nothing's moving. It's cured. It cured within that layer of the base. So what I'll do is go ahead and add now some of these confetti pieces. Kind of give it like a little hint of color, and the same rule applies with the confetti. You don't want it to be too bulky. It'll give it like a nice hue of color in the background. As you tilt the nail, you'll end up seeing the different colors reflecting. So put it in the off spaces and a little on top of the blue. Same thing for this one. In these little empty spaces, I'll put it. Again, because of the design, if anything is sticking up, it's no big deal. It'll end up getting filed. But you want to be mindful if you aren't doing a random design, you want to make sure you have nice flat pieces. Even that's a little too big, so I'll take that out. Okay. So once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and cure that for another 30 seconds. I'm going to go on with another layer of base, and you get the point. Everything that I'm adding, I'm going to do it in layers. Just using this base. Now I'm going to go ahead and when using these shells, you need to really, these shells come very big, to be very mindful of the pieces that you use, just because again, they need to lay kind of flat. So I'm just going to scatter these everywhere. Put it off to the side. You can always break it up with your brush or anything as you're working. Get a feel for the size of the pieces that you need. I'm just going to crush it up the opposite end of my brush to make them as small as possible. So it could be as little as this piece right here. Just randomly placing them. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So again, I'm going to cure this for 30 seconds underneath the light. Okay, and lastly, my brush is clean. One more coat of the base. And you can see we've done like 5 layers, and if I want to show you this nail, you don't even really see it's not thick at all. When you're working with base, you don't want to do this with sculptor. It's going to be so fat and big and thick unnecessarily. Okay, nice thin coat. What I'm going to do is take this color while that gel is still thin. I'm going to go on with a nice thin liner brush. and lightly just kind of cascade some lines through this. Give it a little bit of something. Just want it very thin. I'll even paint some of it out on my thumb. You just want to create some type of wavy lines. Give it some type of color, some depth. If you feel like it's too thick, you can always just, like I said, brush it off on your thumb. I'm kind of using my thumb to paint. To create these little lines throughout it. The same for this nail. Because that gel is wet, it's going to kind of do the gliding for you. If you want to really offset this, you could do it in a white color. It'll really pop. I just wanted to keep the colors the same for this. Okay, so once I'm happy with that, I'm gonna go ahead and cure that for another 30 seconds. So once everything is settled, you're happy with the design, I'm gonna go with my clear. And I'm gonna just fully encapsulate everything, making sure everything is covered. Again, working with gel, it files very easily. So make sure that you cover everything. Don't worry about the shape or the size, the thickness right now, because you can fix all of that when filing. Right now, I just want to make sure everything is sealed. Okay. Just going to take a look at this, make sure everything is good. Float this over here. Remove anything that's excess. Same for this nail. It's good. So I'm going to go ahead and cure this one last time for 1 whole minute. Once that's cured, I'm going to remove the tacky layer from the gel nails. Now I can file and buff and finish shaping the rest of the nails. So now that everything's buffed and filed, I'm going to go ahead with my top coat and cure for another 60 seconds. Okay, now that that's done, we have nice encapsulated nails. You can see how you see all the different textures that we put into this nail, as well as the acrylic ones. I really like the gold accent, it makes it pop. This, you can see this, everything that's going on in here. That's the oil. And here we have encapsulated nails. Stay tuned tomorrow as we finish off the 3-part series for nail art by doing some ombre nails. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye.